أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وآل محمد وعجل. Alhamdulillah that we've been blessed with another opportunity to sit and remember the Aza of Aba Abdullah. See, oftentimes when it comes to culture, it's quite easy to find out negativities in it and then bash those negativities. But a balanced approach would be to also embrace and protect the positivity of that particular culture. Right? Alhamdulillah, in the culture that we grew up in, it reinforces and protects a very important idea, which is that when our loved ones pass away, right, the commemoration activities of those loved ones is actually circulating around the memory and the mention of Abu Abdullah. We have majalis that are kept year-round. Every year when the Barsi happens, when the annual anniversary happens for the passing of a loved one, right? It is not only a religiously encouraged practice, but it's also something that's protected and supported by culture itself too, right? So it's important to understand and appreciate at times these aspects. Shukr, when we talk about the idea of shukr and thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, for instilling in ourselves the capacity to accept and to protect these positive aspects in our culture and in our religion. You see that? Those things in the culture which are supporting and are in line with the religion, alhamdulillah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept those things within our families going. You see that? That is an item to actually thank Allah for and appreciate. Salawat, please. What's important to also note is that this occurrence of a majlis and the mention of Abu Abdullah occurs around Zekr al Mawt. Like when a person passes in our family, it is a mention of death. And every year when the anniversary comes, it's a mention of death. In Islam, we have two great and important mentions of death. The first one is the one where we're here for, the annual commemoration of the passing of an individual. See that? The second Zekr al Mawt, the greatest of the Zekr al Mawt, is the one that our culture and our religion kind of joins with that, which is the zikr of the ultimate death. The death that brought to life all of humanity. You see that? It's the mention and the zikr of the shahada of Abu Abdullah himself. Salawat, please. So, Zekr al Mawt are of two types. The first type is now the mention of death that occurs through the passing of a loved one, and the second now is the mention of death, of the ultimate death that brought what? Salvation and life to all of humanity. Right? It's the safeguard of growth and spirituality. Both of these items are coupled together. Right? I told you this coupling occurs and is supported by our culture, but it's originated in our faith actually. Every Muharram, when the Muharram starts, we recite a very famous hadith from the Imam who says what? If you were to cry over something, فَابْكِ لِلْحُسَيْنِ, right? This famous line. If you were to become sorrow and cry over something, so cry for Hussein alayhi salam. See that? This particular idea is very real. It's rooted in our faith. We're going to open it up a little bit right now, inshallah. When we look at the two types of Zekr al Mawt, the mention of Karbala and the passing of family members, today's primary aspect of the talk will be looking at comparisons between the two. We will learn some things from one and apply it to the other, and learn some things from the other and apply it to the one, inshallah. Salawat, please. Let's start by looking at Karbala in of itself. Right? The sorrow which we face in Karbala this particular sorrow stems from something important. It stems from love, correct? Okay. Let's look at the appropriate translation of that in the family unit as well. When somebody in the family unit passes away, the closer a connection you have with that person, right? The greater the love you have with that particular person, the greater the sorrow that's felt. Correct or not correct? Yes or no? Question. If I'm an individual who's saying that when it comes to the mention of Karbala, that sorrow that I feel, the intensity of it sometimes isn't as high as I think it should be. Right? It's a question that can come up. Then I say, okay, let's look at the passing away of a close family member and see what instills that intensity of love there when a family member passes away. We see that when we have positive experiences and tawajjuh towards that person over a span of our lifetime, right? That interaction and relationship that we develop with them, right? Uh, leads to and nurtures a very real feeling within us called sorrow. See that? Okay. If the mention of Aba Abdullah and the Aza of Aba Abdullah is something which is uh, situated and limited only in a certain frame of time, you see that? If it is something which we interact with only when we adorn certain type of clothes, you see that? Then the relationship that we're creating with that particular Aza is one which is quite limited in reality. Let's look at this particular example as is. When a mother passes away in the family unit, you see that? The husband, the children, the brothers, the sisters, each of them, right, at the passing stage, remember and commemorate really specialities that they had experienced with that particular lady. You see that? Just now, when the talk occurred, a brother came and talked of his experience with his sister. You see that? And those mentions and those experiences which occurred slowly throughout a lifetime culminate in now a sorrow. Such that in the audience of so many, tears start to flow. He did not require someone to sit in front of him and recite in a poetic manner about his sister for the tears to come. Simply bringing to mention the thought and the idea of this beloved person in the heart automatically generated an emotion of sorrow. See that? When it comes to the Aza of Aba Abdullah, cultivating a relationship with Aba Abdullah is extremely important in this manner. Oftentimes, we see that the relationship we have with Aba Abdullah and the relationship we have with the rest of our life sometimes might seem separate from one another. And the hadith that the Imam talked about, he said, whenever you want to cry, فَابْكِي لِلْحُسَيْنِ. Right? Let's analyze that for a bit. Salawat, please. Imagine if I go to a child and I say, whenever you want to cry, okay, cry for that chocolate that you didn't get. Okay. One time he goes in the schoolyard and he's becoming bullied. Okay, and he wants to cry because he's getting bullied. Would it make sense for him to cry for the chocolate he didn't get? Yes or no? Well, wouldn't, right? A normal intellectual would not approach the child and say that now that you're getting bullied in the schoolyard, cry for the chocolate. Correct or not correct? So we have the greatest of intellect coming to mankind and saying, whenever you wish to cry, فَابْكِ لِلْحُسَيْنِ. That means, Azizan, there is a reality that is existing there, that you are able to understand and understand the relationship that Hussein has in that particular moment. You see that? The only time I'll tell that kid to cry for the chocolate bar is if in reality that particular scenario is somehow innately linked to that particular chocolate bar. Yes or no? Yes or no? Absolutely. So if I go to a child and I say, whenever you feel that you don't have a lot of support and so on and so forth, uh, cry for that friend that moved away. Okay, I'm bringing you one step closer. But now when he's in the schoolyard, okay, and he's getting bullied or he's feeling alone, now I've maintained a logical link, right? Now it makes sense for me to tell him, hey, cry for that friend that moved away. Why? Because if that friend was here right now with you, then you wouldn't be in the situation perhaps that you're getting bullied. You wouldn't be left alone perhaps. You see that? Here's one level of a connection. That the loss of something is linked now to the secondary loss that you're feeling. You see that? That is one level, bringing one step closer in understanding what's going on. But is that the case for Abu Abdullah? Is it the case that if Karbala did not happen, then all the sorrows, the rest of the sorrows that you and I feel, those sorrows would not happen? No, it's not the case, right? Yes or no? Salawat, please. So we bring ourselves to one step higher. Okay, so we understand that yes, logically speaking, when you tell to somebody when you're sad about A, cry for B. Okay, that means there has to be a relationship between A and B. There has to be a relationship between A and B. Now we're looking at now what this relationship between A and B can potentially be. See that? Is that one potential scenario that makes sense for the schoolyard example is that the loss for A creates the capacity for B to happen. And that's why you cry for the loss of A, because now in the absence of A, B is occurring. See that? But that's not the case for Abu Abdullah and us at all. It's not the case that if Abu Abdullah and Karbala did not happen, our parents, our family, none of them would pass away. Humans would become all of a sudden immortal. It's not the case, correct? So this is definitely not the relationship that's intended by the Imam at all when he's saying that if you wish to cry for something, فَبْكِ لِلْحُسَيْنِ. Let's take one step further. Consider this analogy extremely well, please. Recite salawat. Imagine someone recently moved to Canada. They moved from a village that had no internet, no access, and definitely no Amazon trucks. Okay? They come and they have friends or families and so on and so forth who have now ordered them lots and lots of gifts. Okay? And they've ordered them all from this kind of, I'm using Amazon as an example. Amazon, right? And as they're arriving, every couple of days go by and somebody rings the bell and you see the same guy in a truck and he brings a parcel and he gives it to them. It's for you, sign here. Initially, interesting, stove. Okay, I was looking for that. Next day comes, oh wow, microwave too. Okay, and so on and so forth. And this particular person keeps bringing the gifts. This person who never actually understood what Amazon was and what the Amazon truck was. Perhaps he was originally from the real Amazon. That's why. Right? He comes up and he starts to develop a unique understanding of this truck driver. This guy's a great gift. It's like Santa Claus. He's got a great gifter. He comes up every single time and gives me something really nice. You see that? He doesn't even ask me for money. He just asks for a signature. And he starts to attribute all those packages and niceness and so on and so forth to this guy. See that? Like, okay. And then a little while later, what type of relationship does he have with this particular guy? Like, this guy is better than my brother. My brother also lives in this country. All the expectations I had from my brother, right? He didn't even come to visit me yet. This guy has brought in the first week everything I was hoping my brother would help me with. A week goes by and the brother comes to the house. And this person is looking at his brother a little bit with an this is an frown. Like, what's wrong? It's like, it's a unique country we're in. strangers give us things that brothers should, and brothers don't give us anything. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, there's this nice neighbor apparently we have. He comes to my house and he drops off all these nice things that I have a need of. I was expecting, and I had talked to you, that me and you would go and get these things. This guy did all your job. You were aloof and missing for the week. You see that? The brother wakes up and says, what's going on, Azizam? That particular person, I was the one ordering everything, bringing that thing to you. When it comes to Aba Abdullah and his connection to our sorrows, it's important to understand that sorrow is always originating from what? Love. Correct or not correct? It's originating from a sense of loss of an item, correct? So the intensity of a sorrow means that there must have been before some sort of intensity of love. This love and whatever caused it is that Amazon package. And the individuals around us that have allowed for that connection to occur are the Amazon truck drivers. And the source and the owner and the actuality of everything is none but Aba Abdullah himself. Let me open this up a bit. Salawat, please. What causes a mother to love their child? She go to motherly classes after giving birth that taught her, listen, you have to love your child now. Is that the case? What causes you to love your siblings? Somebody came to you, tapped you on the shoulder, so you should love your siblings, huh? Is that the case? No? Innately, you were created with a disposition, correct? Right? Are you the originator and the source of that disposition? Did you fashion it yourself? Did you go back in time and say, I want to be a loving father, or I want to be a loving mother? And then out of free will, I chose that path and I came into the world like, I'm going to have this type of innate disposition in me. Is that what happened? No, it's not. These innate dispositions, this fitrah, was originated and stemmed from who? None but our Creator, correct? The Shi'as are those individuals who are innately created from some of the ahadith, from the leftover clays of the Ahlul Bayt themselves. Meaning that, what does that actually mean? It means that those innate dispositions that you have are actually stemming from the Ahlul Bayt themselves. If you love, as a father, your children, understand that that disposition of love as a father towards that child is not innately yours, Aziza. You are the manager and the gardener of that plant, but the seed and the growing plant belongs to someone else. You see that? You're at max a really good Amazon truck driver. At max. When you appreciate this and understand this, you recognize that those individuals that held the closest relationships to you and you love them immensely, right? Then you recognize that all those experiences, all those dots that led to this immense love, that upon the passing of that individual transferred into great sorrow, all of those experience points were originating from who? Who allowed you to have such a sister? Who allowed you to have such a mother? Who gave that mother the capacity to be who she was? Who gave that sister the capacity to be the way that they were? The innate disposition in of itself was sourced from none but the Creator Himself. Question. But wait a second. People are special, correct? Some individuals are able to cultivate that particular disposition in a better way. Correct or not correct? And that is why in our faith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala couples this Zekr al Mawt al Asghar with Zekr al Mawt al Akbar. He couples the passing of individuals with the memory of Aba Abdullah. So listen. Each person who passes away close to you, depending on how strongly they cultivated that which innately Allah had given them, that's how strongly they're going to connect your heart to them. And in the passing of that particular individual, your heart will feel a strong sorrow. If you get occupied in that particular sorrow, right, then you're looking at the hand that was meant to point at the moon, but you're just stuck looking at that particular hand in of itself and getting lost in that hand and the beauty of it. It's a beautiful hand. It is pointing, but it's at the end of the day used as a mechanism to go somewhere else. I'll open this point more. Salawat, please. We see something similar even in the greatest of zikrs. When it comes to the zikr of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Ziyarat Ashura, we say what? We say we seek closeness to Allah and His Rasul through this memory of yourself. If the greatest zikr of Maut is still a mechanism of growth and cultivating goodness in us, then how could the smaller zikr of Maut be devoid of that? You see that? Salawat, please. The first point, that sorrow is driven from love, and we understand now that experience and tawajjuh gives intensity to that particular love. And relationships are directionally specific, correct? Is it the case that if one person is super in love with another, the other person has to be super in love with the first as well? No. Correct? Not the case. So when family members who pass away close to us die, what happens? Is the sorrow felt equivalently? Let's say, for example, I had 4 brothers and I loved all 4 of them equally. Okay? Level 5. Okay? When I pass away, does each of them feel sorrow based on my intensity of love towards them? No. Each of them feels sorrow on their intensity and their direction of the relationship that they've maintained. You see that? You see that? When it comes to Aba Abdullah, that's also true as well. You can have Aba Abdullah absolutely in love with each of the Shias, but does that mean that each of the Shias themselves are going to be absolutely in love with Aba Abdullah? No, it's not. Relationships are directionally dependent. Salawat, please. Okay. Next point is the idea of what happens after now the passing. When somebody has passed, and in the time of death and after that, a great sorrow is felt. Right? What is the sorrow stemming from? It's stemming from the sense of loss, correct? If that person went on a business trip for a couple of weeks, right? For those couple of weeks, would you have that same sorrow? Probably not, right? Why not? Because the sense of loss is not there, correct? Right? Okay. When a close individual passes away to us, right? That closeness that we had with them, when we understand that it's been cut from us, okay, that is what incites in us great sorrow. Okay. What's important to understand that was that particular person who passed away just their physical body? Was that the case? It was not. You see, their physical body changed when they were 3 years old, and when they were 30 years old, and when they were 80 years old. Their physical body changed, correct? But the understanding that one had of them, let's say their sibling or whatever the case may be, did that understanding all of a sudden of that person, that individuality also change? No, That I that you had a connection to, that nafs that you had a connection to, stayed the same. Yes or no? Okay. So the reality of that particular person is not simply the physical binds of that particular person's body. The intellect and the nafs, which associates the reality of individuals to simply the physical field, experiences for themselves an amplified sorrow because they feel that this particular disconnect is a disconnect from them and that other person entire. What happens there? Well, inside, rage occurs. Na'udhu billah, one might go as far as to say that my father or my grandfather was such a pious and good individual. How could God take him from me? Question. We're living in a city where a great student of ilm passed away recently, Sayyid Asad. Recite salawat for his blessings. A commonly felt feeling after the passing of marhum was that it's such a great time where everybody was utilizing and experiencing and benefiting. Uh, why now? Now, it's important to open this particular feeling. I'm giving various examples to make you recognize that this feeling and this thing is a real thing. It's not a false thing. It's a real thing that exists within us when those close to us pass away. The why now feeling. Salawat, please. Those individuals who see the benefit of an individual and their relationship with an individual bound to just a physical entity. Question for them. Okay. Question for them. If it is the case that that's true, then the relationship should only be there when we are somehow physically able to stay connected with one another. If I go on a trip for a couple of years and I don't see my brothers at home, is my relationship with them gone? No, it's not. When children grow up and it's time for them to go to university and move to a different city, the parents say, okay, out of sight, out of mind, na'uzubillah, and all the emotions are gone? No. You see that? Our interactions with individuals isn't bound to their physical body. We create an interaction with their essence, keeping with us an image of their essence. Consider this. Imagine the closest person to you, right? And when you think of that person, what comes to mind? If you were to bring their physical representation, you will feel the stage in which you closely connected with them come to mind. Okay, even though that person has a childhood, a teenager, an adult phase, and a elderly phase, you see that? But the image that comes to mind will be the image that you most closely connected to, that phase of life that you most closely connected to. Here's an example. Many individuals who've migrated to Canada aren't able to travel back home for many, many, many years. And everybody back home knows that 10 years have passed and so on and so forth. And this person must have grown up and must have had a beard and must have had this and must have had that and so on and so forth. But the image in mind and almost even the expectations that they hold and garner with that particular person who's coming to visit again is still that which they clung to. Our nafs is quite unique there. Understand this. I'm trying to assist our understandings to elevate from the physical realm to go towards the reality of things. Salawat, please. This sorrow which is felt in the passing of a loved one, this sorrow, if it gets attached and anchored only to the physical realm, is problematic. Why? Because the chance of that sorrow being amplified incorrectly is there. It is not a goodbye with the person eternally. In fact, we are told to commemorate them and act on behalf of them and visit their graves and recite Surah Fatiha for them. If truly a connection was not possible, then all of these activities would be then illogical. The most logical of faiths and the most logical of individuals, the Ahlul Bayt themselves, have recommended and instilled into our faith this idea of Zekr al Mawt, right? Visiting of the graveyards, recitations of Surah Fatiha and Dua and Surah Yasin, the commemorations of Aza on their behalf, the giving of sadaqat on their behalf, and so on and so forth. See that? This particular connection is important to understand. That if a connection exists, what is it, and why am I not able to understand that as the real connection? Salawat, please. How does that link with Karbala? Let's bring it back. You see, if Karbala is the remembrance of an event that occurred in the past, then even if somebody understands and has a lot of love for the Abu Abdullah who's bound to the time and the body in the past only, you see that? And that particular sorrow and the memory is only a recount of history. You see that? But if somebody understands that the real connection was not bound to your physical link to Abu Abdullah, it was bound to his nafs, which is not bound by time nor space, just like your nafs and my nafs is not bound to time nor space. Then all of a sudden, connections start to take their true form. Actions and remembrance serve their true purpose. Take those away, and the sorrow becomes the sorrow not of a human. We are humans, meaning that at birth we are born in the lowest of realms, the realm of animals. You see that? And given the chance to elevate ourselves such that we can get higher than the realms of angels. Correct? That means that the sorrow of a human and the sorrow of an animal also has to be different innately. You see that or no? Salawat, please. Another salawat, please. When it comes time to recognizing that, in fact, when we do good things for the person who has passed away, if that good thing was stemming from an action of the one who passed away, they trained us to be good Muslims, and now in their memory we're being good Muslims. We are quite literally connecting their existence to our action. You see that? And in that way, when we perform that action, they are living on and benefiting from that particular action, even in this realm. They don't cease to exist, correct? They live in a higher realm than this one. But through the tawajjuh we have towards them, in our actions that we do, we are bringing their existence into this realm such that they can actually benefit from this action too. It does two things, both in the positive and in the negative. Consider these two examples very carefully. The son of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, was he a good individual or a bad individual? He was clearly a bad individual, correct? The actions that this son did, if they stemmed from the actions of his father, if his father, na'udzubillah, had a hand in the actions of the son, and we would say the father is, na'udzubillah, not a ma'soom. You see that? You see that or no? So we recognize that those actions which the son did, They might be bad, but if the father had no connection to those particular actions, and the father's existence is not brought down and connected to those actions. You see that? Consider another example, please, too. Okay? Consider the example of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam and his father. Salawat, please. You see, when we think of the ark of salvation, right, two things come to mind: the ark of Nuh and the ultimate ark. See that? The ark of Nuh was the material world manifestation of Aba Abdullah's reality. The ark of Nuh was that. Well, I'm bringing for you a consideration of Aba Abdullah himself, the greatest and ultimate ark of salvation. Okay. After the Shahada of Aba Abdullah himself, what occurred and what happened? After the Shahada of Aba Abdullah himself, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam used the very path that he was supposed to take to Sham, where the Banu Umayyah were trying to display how they had authority and control and cripple the minds and the movements of the Muslim Ummah and attain power. Imam Sajjad uses that very same path and does the exact, and flips the tables. Okay. In that, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam consistently is bringing to the mention the actions and the position of who? The Ahlul Bayt and Aba Abdullah himself. The motivating factor behind the actions that Imam Sajjad has is nothing but the continuation of the actions of his father. Anybody doubt that what occurred after Karbala was not connected to that which occurred before? In the continuation of the ideals and principles and goals of the predecessor, right? Quite literally, their nafs is connected to the action afterwards. You see that? In this very real way, when we give tawajjuh towards those individuals who've passed away, when we do good things and refrain from bad things with their memory in mind that their love is leading me to this particular choice, that is me visiting them in their essence, in a way that both I benefit in reality and they benefit as well. Salawat, please. We see this very apparently and very openly in one particular character in Karbala. Sayyida Zainab Salamullah alayha, when it came time to Karbala, we see that the immense amount of love she has for her brother is unconceivable by normal minds. To the point where this lady, when it comes time to leave Medina, her husband is not accompanying her and her kids are not accompanying her. She has placed a condition in marriage prior to, such that she's able to go on this particular journey and she will not be stopped. Our culture sometimes brings that love to simply the love of a brother and a sister, but the reality is that love is the love of an individual with their Mawla, with their Wali. See that? This particular individual, Sayyidah Zainab, as the caravan continues from Medina to Mecca and comes towards Karbala, is constantly looking and is careful regarding her brother. Before the advent of Karbala, we see that she is so careful that there are times when she says to Aba Abdullah, have you assured and ensured that those individuals who are your ashab, they're going to stick with you? They won't leave you? We see her consistently occupied with the worry of what will happen to her brother. When it comes to the battlefield itself, we see that there's a time when Aba Abdullah goes out and he's bringing back now the sons of Sayyidah Zainab, and our history states that Sayyidah Zainab isn't somebody who comes out of the tent and faces Aba Abdullah. But a unique thing occurs. When Abu Abdullah is bringing the body of Ali al Akbar back to the tents, this same lady rushes out and meets her brother as he's approaching the tents. Even in those moments, you have to understand that which was the attention and intention of the Ahl Bayt was none but Allah. You see, the tashi janaza of a son is makruh for the father to do. Sayyidah Zainab, even in that moment, is coming out and supporting the deen of Allah and the emanation of the deen of Allah. She comes and supports her brother as he brings the body of Hazrat Ali Akbar back to the tent. And a time comes when there is no more Qasim and there is no more Akbar, and Abu Abdullah is to go to the battlefield alone. See this lady, she embodies this lesson that all Shias have to take with themselves. That no matter how hard the hardships of this world will become, our attention and our intentions will remain with Allah and the Ahlul Bayt and none else. When it comes time for Abu Abdullah to be circled with the enemies and he's left alone on the battlefield, Sayyidah Zainab is no longer seen in the tent. She comes to the place where she's able to see the atrocities firsthand. She places herself in the position where the ultimate test and the ultimate sacrifice is able to be given by her. She looks at Abu Abdullah surrounded and sees that her brother is getting tortured. She sees the arrows and the swords and the stones and the spears, and all along nothing but the zikr of Allah is in her heart. Later on, when she is asked, Sayyidah, what did you see? She's able to say with complete patience that I saw nothing but beauty. This is our role model. This is the individual who teaches us that when the most beloved individuals around us pass away, when the ones we shared the most important memories of pass away, when we see the hardest tribulations in front of us, even in those moments we are understanding the original source of that love, the one who blessed this relationship in our life. Matam Hussein.